Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to do the physics setup for this case. So when you're in Fluent Workbench, right click on Mesh and update the mesh so that when you open up Fluent it will take up the updated mesh that you have just created in the previous section. After this has been completed, there will be a tick next to mesh. So now double click on Setup and that will launch Fluent from Workbench. Select Double Precision and click OK. However, in this case, we're going to export the case from Workbench to Fluent. So we will need to create a working folder for our problem. So minimize everything and on your desktop, create a new folder and give it a name. So here I have called a double shear layer, and make sure that you download and put these files into your working folder, which are IC, which is the data file for the initial setup, and also double shear layer, which is the case file for our problem, and define initial case. So this is the UDF for initializing our problem. And then open up this Fluent window again. So in order to put injections, we need to select Define and select Injections. So click Create, and then for injection type, select File, so that we can inject multiple particles at the same time at our defined locations. The locations are written in the file. So select File and find the injection file, which you should download from the website. And select this injection file and click OK and OK. Once this has been done, click Close, and when you go to Models, you'll see that Discrete phase has been automatically turned on. Next thing to do is to go to Materials and double click on Air. Change the density to 1 and the viscosity to 0.001, which is 1 times 10 to the negative 3. And then remember to click Change Create before you click Close. Go to Boundary Conditions. So in this problem, we're going to set it to 2 periodic boundary conditions rather than 4. So click here and type in some text codes. So first, input mesh and press return. Then input modify zones and click return again. Next, input make periodic and return. So now we have to select the periodic zones, but we need to input their ID. So first we create a periodic from the right boundary to the left boundary. So when you click on the right boundary, you can see that the ID is 6. So input 6. And the shadow zone, which is the projection from this boundary to the shadow boundary, we click the left bound and we see that the ID is 5. So input 5. Input no for rotational periodic, and yes to create the boundary zones, and yes to auto detect. Now you can see that the left boundary has disappeared because they are set to be the same boundary condition, which is periodic, which means that whatever comes in from this side will go exactly the same out from the other side. Do the same periodic from the upper bound to the bottom bound. So here, input input make periodic. Select the upper bound, and we see that the ID is 7. Click on the bottom bound, and we see that the ID is 8. So here say no, yes, yes. Now we only have 2 bounds, which are both defined as periodic. And for the interior, it's just the type interior and leave it as it is. Finally, let's write the case so that we can open it up in Fluent rather than Workbench, and this will cause a lot less difficulties when running our case. So go to File, Export, Case, and give it a case name. Let's say double shear layer, and save it to the working folder that you have just created before doing all this. So double shear layer, and we'll save it. And I have already created a save, so I will not save it this time, but you should save it in that folder and click OK. So once you have done this, you may close Fluent from Workbench. You may also save your work in Workbench by clicking Save Project. And then after you have done that, close Workbench.